Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sichos HaRan share. Tonight, we're going to be doing Sikha number 55. So this piece is actually going to talk about the world to come, Olam Habah, and the good that awaits us all there, Mirza Hashem. So we're going to dive right in. I'm going to pull up the share screen. Here we go, 55. The Rebbe once spoke of the good one earns in the world to come through serving God. He said that we call this reward good because there is no other word in human language to describe it. But it is really so much higher than any concept of good that the word is totally inadequate. The most we can say of the world to come is that it is good, but really it is so much greater, and no eye has seen it other than God. So just to recap the piece, so Rebbe Nachman begins by saying that through serving Hashem in this world, good will be stored for us in the world to come. And he says that there's really no word that's sufficient enough to describe Olam Habah, the world to come. So we use the word good because we're just sticking with it, because the more we embellish, it's just the Olam Habah is so much greater that there's no way to really describe it. No eye has seen it. No one can even imagine the greatness of it. So I wanted to bring a Lekutey Maharan Torah that connected to this piece. We're going to read Lekutey Maharan in the second Lekutey Maharan, Torah number 55. So I'm going to pull up the share screen again. Here we go, 55. The profit of this world is inestimable, i.e., what a person can earn in this world. It is not even necessary for him to invest anything of his own for it. Just from what God has prepared for him, he can spend generously and profit enormously. No eye has seen it. So I'm going to stop the share. So again, Rebbe Nachman is telling us we can't even imagine what the reward is in the world to come, what it will be like. And that a person, and he says a line here, he says, I'm just going to read it inside, it is not even necessary for him to invest anything of his own for it. Just from what God has prepared for him, he can spend generously and profit enormously. So it's an interesting line that we're going to delve into because I wasn't even really sure what this meant when I read it. So we're actually going to read some of the footnotes here. I'm going to go back to the share screen. So Rav Chaim Kramer wrote these footnotes. So here we go. Okay, footnote number 2. The profit of this world is inestimable, right? So the profit to which Rebbe Nachman refers is the reward of the future in the world to come, or world which is both eternal and infinite. This world is transient and corporeal. The material benefits which a person earns here are likewise fleeting. He cannot take them with him to the next world, yet the Rebbe teaches that all the good a person does in this world earns eternal profits. Even the simplest good thought, word, or deed earns enormous reward in the world to come. So Rav Chaim Kramer says that we're talking about the world to come. And he says everything that we gain here, everything that a person, wealth, possessions, family, all these things that, even family that we gain in this world, like these unfortunately aren't things we could take with us to the next world. But the things that we could are deeds, our mitzvos, our learning Torah. And he's saying here, even the smallest deeds, even that counts as something that gives us profit in the world to come. So the next footnote, not even necessary for him to invest anything of his own for it. So this is this line here. It is not even necessary for him to invest anything of his own for it. So let's see what this means. So Reb Nachman inserts here the Yiddish term oislag, lay out. Rabbi Nachman teaches that a person does not have to lay out huge sums of money or invest superhuman effort before earning the rewards of the world to come. People assume that giving charity will earn them eternal recompense only by earning large sums and donating it to the needy. Others assume that only becoming a great Torah scholar or exceptionally pious will render them worthy of such recompense. Consequently, there are many who will seek to accumulate wealth or acquire much knowledge or special spiritual skills in order to realize eternal rewards. So Rebbe Nachman is saying here that, a lot of times a person thinks that they need to lay out and need to have like tremendous mesiras nefesh in order to gain anything in the world to come. They think they need to become a huge Talmid Chacham, and they think they need to give tons and tons of tzedakah. Well, obviously all these things are huge and obviously will get you, a greater profit in the world to come. Rebbe Nachman is saying that still we can profit enormously with just doing the right thing, these deeds, these mitzvos. So let's read on. While Muni 5 cents, wisdom and piety are certainly worthy pursuits, Rebbe Nachman teaches that to profit enormously from this world, a person needs no more than the means and abilities with which God has already endowed him. So we have already what we need in order to profit in the world to come. This recalls the well-known story of the Vilna Gaon, who on his deathbed was clutching the fringes of his tzitzis and weeping. Asked the meaning of this, the Gaon explained, I'm crying because he would soon be leaving a world in which just a few coins buys mitzvahs as tzitzis, through which one earns endless reward, and he was heading where a mitzvah could not be bought for any amount of money. So Rebbe Nachman's saying here that, I thought this footnote was so powerful because he's telling us here that like whatever we need in order to get to Olam Habah, whatever we have to do, it's all within us. We have every capability and ability within us in order to do what's needed and in order to like live to our fullest potential and to get us to where we need to go. Like Hashem gave it to us already. And that's what this line over here means. Like it's not even necessary for him to invest anything of his own for it. A person doesn't need to invest anything of his own for it. Just from what God has prepared for him, he can spend generously and profit enormously. Hashem already prepared this for you. Hashem already gave you every gift, every talent, everything that you need in order to gain this Olam Habah, this goodness that we're talking about here. And, we also hear this great story about the Vilna Gaon that he was crying on his deathbed because he was saying, like, it's so easy here to gain mitzvos. It's so easy to gain reward, to like make this profit for the world to come. All I have to do is just spend a little bit of money to buy tzitzis and boom, big mitzvahs and big profit. So, Reb Chaim Kramer finishes off that, again, like this piece ends, no eye has seen it, right? So no eye has seen Olam Habah because we can't even perceive how great the reward is. But even though we can't imagine the greatness of Olam Habah, still we can earn it here. And, and we earn it here with just with what Hashem gave us, just with who we are. Just, that's it. So, very, very powerful. It's always good to like be reminded that everything we need is within us already. Hashem, it's like we hear that Hashem plants the refuah before he gives the makkah. Hashem plants the remedy before he gives you the sickness. So with this too, like, we're put in this world, we're put in this like very confusing, dark place, but Hashem gave us everything we need to handle it on every level. So obviously we have to be, very busy bees and strive very hard in order to achieve this. But again, it's only by being ourselves. It's only with what Hashem already gave us. So, So I don't know much about Olam Habah. I've never been there, at least as far as I could remember. But I wanted to bring in another piece that will hopefully encourage us to push ourselves to grow to high levels. And this piece that we're about to read, it's a very special piece, and it has changed many people's lives. And I hope you'll enjoy it. So we're going to go to the second Lekutey Maharan again, and we're going to go to Torah number 48. And we're only going to read section 2, but I definitely would suggest reading the whole thing. Let me just pull up the share screen. So just because I'm throwing you in the middle of it, so the first part talks about, well, Rebbe Nachman is tells us that many times when people try to do good and, they try to come close to Hashem, a person might have a lot of challenges because of, they might be physical challenges, they might be spiritual challenges, they might be, personal tragedies that a person is going through, but there's always like some type of difficulty, some type of thing that's stopping us. And Rebbe Nachman warns us that we need to encourage ourselves because Hashem hates depression. So Rebbe Nachman says also in this piece, one of his very famous lines that we're going to read, and he tells us that the whole world is a very, very narrow bridge, and the main thing is not to be afraid. So, there's a few famous songs about it, Kol ha'olam kulo, Gesher tsar me'od, and we're going to talk about that too. So here we go. We're going to dive right in. We're going to read the piece. Number 2 over here. And a person has to be extremely stubborn in his service of God, not to desert his place. The little bit of the service he has begun, no matter what comes his way. Remember this well, because you will have much need of it when you begin even a bit in the service of God. So a person has to hold their ground and be very stubborn, not to give up whatever they attained, whatever spirituality they got. And he warns us that we need to remember this because there's going to come a time where we're going to need it. Okay, over here, a person needs tremendous determination. A person needs tremendous determination to be strong and courageous, to hold on and maintain his position, even if they cause him to fall time and again, God forbid. For there are times when they cause a person to fall from the service of God, as is known. Nevertheless, it is incumbent upon him to do whatever he can in the service of God, and not allow himself to fall entirely, God forbid. This is because one must surely experience all these falls, descents, confusions, and so on, before entering the gates of holiness. And the true tzaddikim too underwent all of this. So he's telling us a person has to hold on. He has to be strong. He has to be stubborn in order not to fall and in order to keep his level and to not give up. And he tells us here that it's very interesting how he says this, Rebbe Nachman. He says, this is because one must surely experience all these falls, descents, confusions, and so on before entering the gates of holiness. So he's saying a person for sure will experience these falls. A person has to experience these falls, this descent, this confusion before entering these gates of holiness. So there's this concept here of Yerida l'tzorech aliyah. A person needs to go down. They need to descend before they go up. And he even says here that the true tzaddikim underwent all of this also. And no, an individual can already be at the entrance to holiness, yet turn back on account of the aforementioned confusions. So a person could be right there, but because of these confusions, they give up and they turn back. Alternatively, when he gets close to the entrance, then the other side, Satan, overwhelms him with very, very great and awesome power. May the merciful one spare us, and does not allow him through the entrance. On account of this, he turns back, God forbid. So because of this great confusion and because of the Satan and the power that the Satan is putting on him to not get him to get to this place of holiness, the person turns back. For such is the way of the Satan on the other side. when it sees that a person is close, really close to the gates of holiness and is about to enter, then it mounts a very, very powerful assault against him. May the merciful one spare us. Accordingly, one needs great encouragement to counter it. So the Satan's going to plan a very powerful assault, a very, a hard hit in order to steer the person away from growing in this, from growing in this place of holiness. And Rebbe Nachman saying, therefore, a person needs great encouragement. He needs a lot of chizuk to counter it. And so we heard from a true tzaddik who said, had anyone, no matter whom, told me when I first began serving God, brother, be strong and hold on, I would have run and been very quick in serving God. For that tzaddik too experienced all the aforementioned, yet did not hear any encouragement from anybody. So Rebbe Nachman saying about this tzaddik, there was once a great tzaddik who he's saying he wished somebody would have told him this secret. He wished that somebody would have told him, like, be strong. This is the way it goes. This is what the Satan tries to do. Like, we're getting like the inner workings here of what's really going on. And the tzaddik is saying, if I would have known this, then for sure I would have like just ran to Hashem and been, and like passed every test. Therefore, whoever wants to enter into the service of God will remember this well. So we need to remember this. Give yourself much encouragement and do what you can in serving God. Then with the accruement of the days and years, with God's help, you will surely enter into the gates of holiness. For God is full of compassion and wants your service very much. So we need to encourage ourselves constantly. We need to remember, like kind of what we were saying before, that everything that we need in order to serve Hashem, it's within us. Everything we need in order to pass whatever tests we're going through, it's within us. Like, this is how we can encourage ourselves, by knowing that Hashem already gave us everything we need. We're intact. We're ready to go. We're strong. I mean, I think it's a message that we could tell ourselves again and again. And know, each time you detach and shift a bit from materialism to his service, all the movements and changes accumulate, combine, and bind together and come to your aid at a time of need. So Rebbe Nachman saying here that every time there's, problems and every time you're getting confused, you should know that like every good that you did in the past, it comes together, it comes and it accumulates to help you. God forbid any trouble or misfortune. Note too, and here's the line, a person must cross a very, very narrow bridge. The main rule is, do not be afraid at all. So Rebbe Nachman tells us, like, know that in this world, like this world is a mashal for this very, very narrow bridge. And we need to cross it in order to get to the next world. But the main thing is don't be afraid. So, like, how could we not be afraid? But I think if we know, like, this, what happens here, that the Satan does come right before we're about to ascend to a higher level. And if we know that, again, Hashem implanted us with everything that we need in order to succeed, then there's nothing to be afraid of. Like, everything that happens is part of the plan, and everything that happens we can handle, and we can soar through life beautifully. So we need to constantly encourage ourselves in this, with these thoughts. So just to fully recap, so we learned that in the original Sikha, number 55, that Olam Habah is good. We can't even imagine the good that it contains. And we learned that the investment in this world for the next world is so good, and that everything we need to profit for the next world, like all the kelim, all the tools, Hashem gave us already. And lastly, we learned that in order for people to attain their high levels here for the next world, they have to go through difficulties where the Yetzer Hara tries to bring them down. But we learned that this is all part of the plan, that we need to have this in order to ascend. And we need to remember that the world is a very narrow bridge, but we have nothing to fear. We have everything we need. So I want to give everyone a bracha, to stay strong. The difficulties are all part of the Yetzer Hara, and it's all part of this illusion that we are living in. And, we should all be successful in gaining a lot of profit in this world and in the world to come. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and have a wonderful night.